You know, when I first took a look at this show, I was kind of hoping it'd be like Super Robot Wars, and would feature Sailor Moon and Lyrical Nanoha duking it out. But that'd be more than just a little silly when you get right down to it. I'll leave that kind of crossover with Shonen Jump. Magical girl shows aren't as dime a dozen as they used to be, and thank goodness for it. Oversaturation will kill any genre you like faster than you can sneeze. Tournament fighters, the mecha genre, and currently school romance comedy derpa-herp that we're suffering through right now are all proof positive of this. So to see a new Magical Girl show pop up is pretty spiffy in this day and age, even if it is bite-sized. Yes, this is not your typical TV series, because the episodes as they were broadcast were only about 4 minutes long, and that's including a credit sequence. A rather odd design choice, one would think. Well, not when you're trying to keep costs down, at least. Yes, in spite of being animated by Gainax, these tiny weekly vignettes were the brainchild of otaku news program 2.5 Jigen Terabi. A contest was held to create magical girls based on the 47 prefectures of Japan, and after getting over 3,000 entries into the contest, I guess they realized they had a good thing going. So after 2 mobile games and a proper Vita game, April 8th, 2014 saw the show itself air on television. You know how some shows are really simple to get into and don't require a lot of background on Japanese culture to understand? This is the opposite of that. I would call this aggressively Japanese, so you should probably rev up your Wikipedias to get a handle on this stuff. Let's get a bit more specific, though. For those of you who may not be up on what a prefecture is, it's the equivalent of a county in the USA or a province in Canada. They all report into the central government and have some autonomy, but can be remade or redistricted at any time. The magical girls in this show get their powers from the ley lines running underneath their various districts, and are tasked with destroying the Maho Suhi, who seep up from the underworld to cause chaos. That's about as much explanation as you'll get, and really what more do you need when it's a video game tie-in? The specifics of the 6 characters presented are all based on very simple stories about taking out the monsters and preserving something culturally relevant. Naruko of Miyagi Prefecture has to retrieve a samurai helmet that looks suspiciously like Masamune Date's. After all, Masamune Date was from Miyagi Prefecture, or at least what would become Miyagi Prefecture some 400 years in the past. Given the limited amount of time in the show, there's not really enough to make a proper story, so it's mostly just episodic, focusing on character-specific questions. Most of the girls seem more than a little bit insecure about the whole magical girl thing, but duty wins out over despair in the end. It really does, it appears, suck to be the chosen one. You know, when I first watched this show, I was going to make hash of how it doesn't really hang together as an aesthetic. The girls all look very weird and different, but mostly weird. Of course, after some research, I found out why. All of these characters were designed by completely different people working off completely different ideas for a completely different topic. Now, that still holds up as a critique, but it's not really anyone's fault. That's what you get when you roll the dice and ask for submissions as far as character designs. And looking more carefully at said designs, which are helpfully explained on a wiki, makes it more understandable, if not more palatable. So let's look at the big question here. In a post-Magica world, what does this show bring to the table? Magical girl shows are great viewings for girls of all ages, but they also tend to say something about femininity in general. Sometimes it's really intentional, sometimes it's incidental to the story being told, but there's more often than not something to be pulled from any of these shows. Now, you may think that I'm over-politicizing this, but to create a piece of media is in itself a political act. So what does Maho Tyson bring to the table? Well, if there's light, there's a shadow, and the evil magical girl that shows up and fights the others does create a bit of drama, but it's all kind of dusted up in that magical girl way. The despair that the magical girls are feeling is very reminiscent of Magica, but not nearly that extreme. The girls themselves are all quite conflicted about their station, but are readily accepting of their duty. Of course, not having certain witchdom looming over their heads probably helps a whole lot. You know how there are easily recognizable cultural stereotypes of American states, most notably Texas, New York, California, and the South? This is basically the same idea, only on a much smaller space with much less distinction to the untrained eye. But hey, it's got a refreshingly light tone to it, and it certainly isn't trying to present itself as some world-changing work. This lack of pretense certainly makes it feel easy to watch, and the short time investment required to watch it makes it nice and digestible. However, it should be noted that, of course, it won't play to a wider audience. I do have to wonder if it is as impenetrable to the Japanese viewers it was intended for as it is to outside audiences. Even at that, there's a fair bit of overlap between episodes, and somehow they do manage to reuse animation in the tiny 4-minute vignette. Additionally, the narration over the ending credits sequence is grating, jarring, and downright infuriating in both its speed and its squeakiness. However, it's not really enough to detract from an overall good work. It presents a bite-sized but satisfying story, then leaves it at that, without waffling on or tripping over itself. Just one question remains, though. Who stole all of Gynex's black pens? If you like what you saw, consider donating to my Patreon to get early access to all the new vids as they come out. And as always, thanks for watching.